Good evening. I'm Courtney, and I work with Congressman Tom Suozzi. I'd like to welcome you to Congressman Suozzi's live telephone town hall meeting this evening. For those of you who are wondering if you're connected, you are, and we'll be taking your questions live momentarily. Before I introduce Congressman Suozzi, let me remind folks, if you'd like to ask a question, press *3. Again, press *3 to ask Congressman Suozzi a question. After you press *3, you'll be put in line to speak with one of our staff members. They'll hop on, take down your name, where you are in the congressman's district, and your question. And then we'll try to get to you as quickly as possible. The next time you hear your name, you'll be live to the entire telephone town hall and can ask your question directly to Congressman Suozzi. Again, that's *3 to ask a question. Press *3 to ask Congressman Suozzi a question. And now, please join me in welcoming Congressman Tom Suozzi. Congressman?
Hey, Courtney, thanks so much, and thanks so much to everybody who's on the call. I'm looking at the monitor now. It says there's already 2,800 people on this call. So this is a great start. I think that number is going to keep on going up because they keep on dialing people. And again, as Courtney said in her introduction, you can press *3 at any time to ask a question. And I'll speak for about 5 minutes or so, and then we'll open it up for questions. Let me just first start by saying thanks for joining me. It's a great honor to serve as a member of Congress. I'm very grateful to people that have helped me to get to this point, to help me get to this job as a member of Congress. I'm humbled by that support, and in the special election last year where I replaced George Santos, and then in the November election, and it was a very tough race. But right now, we're in a very big time of change. It's the middle of a lot of tumult, and I talk to people all the time. I try to find out what people are thinking, and some of my constituents are really just freaked out. They're worried about the actions of the president and Elon Musk, and they're worried about the upheaval that's taking place, and they're genuinely afraid about a lot of the cuts, as am I, the bravado, and the effects that these changes are going to have on real people. Other constituents I have are happy. They want disruption. They think the federal government's too big. They think it's wasteful. They're happy about the crackdown at the border. They don't think we should be spending money in other countries. But we have to remember that my district is kind of unique in this country because a lot of districts are either all Republicans or all Democrats. Mine is split. I'm one of only 11 districts in the country where President Trump won the district and a Democratic member of Congress won the district. That's a rare thing. So my district is divided, much like the country is divided. But I represent everybody. I represent all the people in my district. So let me just tell you what I'm concerned about right now. I think that, and what I think the people are concerned about. I think they're concerned about the cost of living, about the cost of their groceries. I think they're still concerned about the border and about doing something for real to fix it for the long term. I think people are concerned about the budget cuts that have been proposed. I did a briefing this weekend with about 500 people in person, a couple hundred people online, with Congresswoman Laura Gillen down at Hofstra University. I had Michael Dowling come and speak, as well as the head of the Long Island Cares, which is one of the largest food banks on Long Island. And I had people from AHRC, Stanford Perry, and I had someone from the League of Conservation Voters. So I think that's what people are concerned about. And now people should know that since I was this new term started, I was appointed to the Ways and Means Committee. The Ways and Means Committee is the oldest committee in Congress. It's the only one in the Constitution. It started in 1789. It's responsible for a lot of the stuff that's going to be coming up related to taxes and revenue. I'm also the co-chair of a group called the Problem Solvers Caucus, 50 people, Democrats and Republicans, evenly divided, trying to work together to find common ground on things. But my priorities right now, as I said many, many times before, are we got to try and find a solution to the border, to secure the border, to fix the broken asylum system, and to treat people like human beings, and to try and help the Dreamers and the TPS recipients and the farm workers, which I think over half the farm workers in the country are undocumented. The economy will be crushed if we don't deal with that, and some other folks as well. Second is we have to get the state and local tax deduction back, and I'm sure somebody will ask about that tonight. I'll talk about it later. Third, I'm constantly working on this fractured Congress, on everybody just fighting with each other. I think people are sick of that. I know I'm sick of it, and you can't get things done unless people work together. And that's hard to do in this environment. It's really hard in this environment. And I know people are concerned about that. But we have to try and rise above and figure out a way to move forward because this counterpunch thing is not working. I try to bring money back to my district, my fourth priority, try to bring money back to the district. And fifth, and what I'm really having to spend a lot of my time on, is trying to address the concerns that people have about Doge, about what Elon Musk is doing, and some of the stuff that I think is reckless, like firing the people that oversee the nuclear stockpile, and firing the people that oversee monitoring of avian flu, and firing the people that oversee measles outbreaks, and then much more. And I'm sure people will ask about that tonight. And then I'm concerned about Ukraine. I'm pushing back on that. I'm really angry about that and the way the president treated Zelensky along with the vice president and the guy that was Marjorie Taylor's boyfriend that was in the meeting the other day. I'm just angry about that. And this is real life. People are dying. People are getting killed. Women are getting raped. Children are being kidnapped. And I'm concerned about the budget cuts. That's what we did at our town hall this weekend. The effect on hospitals. Mike Dowling talked about that a lot. He's the CEO of Northwell. The effect on nursing homes. There's going to be a big, huge cut in Medicaid. 800. Oh, what was that? Oh, what? I don't know why that happened. Okay, I'm still here. They said we were on music hold for a second. Anyway, so nursing homes, or 2/3 of the people in nursing homes are on Medicaid. I'm concerned about environmental cuts and so much more. Okay, I think I've talked enough. I want to open it up to questions. There's now 7,600 people on this call. If you have a question, you're supposed to press *3. So, Courtney, you're going to try and line me up with some questions?
Yes, Congressman, I am. Again, for folks just joining Congressman Suozzi's telephone town hall and would like to ask a question, press *3. Again, as the Congressman said, press *3. And we're also streaming this on Facebook, so we're going to go to Chad in Glen Cove. And Chad says, Congressman, you talk all the time about being bipartisan. How can you work with Republicans? They want to destroy our country.
Well, it's a very tough environment to do anything bipartisan. I mean, everybody's so mad at each other on both sides. I'm mad too. But like I said, we just attack one and then they attack the other one. It's not working. And we have to figure out how to work together to get things done. And the Problem Solvers Caucus was always a great vehicle for that when I was in Congress before. We helped to get the Infrastructure Act done. We helped to get the CHIPS Act done. We did a lot of stuff to get us through COVID. And the Problem Solvers Caucus was actually in a lot of trouble because they really split up, the Democrats and Republicans, after the Kevin McCarthy was kicked out. And the Republicans were mad that the Democrats didn't help save Kevin McCarthy. But there are some good people on the Republican side, and I work together with my Democratic colleagues regularly, and I try and work with my Republican colleagues when I can. And I'll fight back on when I have to, like I've been, but I will always look for people to try and find common ground. So, a guy named Don Bacon, he's a former general in the Air Force, and he came out and said, President Trump has to follow the Constitution. He's moving too fast. He's got to slow down, and he's got to follow the Constitution. And a guy named Mario Diaz-Balart, who's a Republican from Florida, came out and said that he's on the Appropriations Committee. He said the Congress has the power of the purse, and he's going to zealously defend that. There's another guy who's actually a Freedom Caucus guy named Gary Palmer. He's not in the Problem Solvers Caucus. But he came out and said, you can't eliminate the Department of Education. That's the Congress's purview. And if you want to try and do something like that, you have to go through Congress. And there are other Republicans. The co-chair of the Problem Solvers Caucus, Brian Fitzpatrick, has come out and really gone hard against the administration about what they're doing in Ukraine. He's actually the chair of the Ukrainian caucus. There's a guy named Joe Wilson, who's another pretty right-wing Republican. But he's also said that what the president is doing with Ukraine is wrong. So we have to try and find those places where we can find agreement. Now, can we do that with everybody? No. Am I going to be able to find agreement with Marjorie Taylor Greene? Absolutely not. Or Lauren Boebert, or some of the other members that are way out there. I'm not going to be able to find common ground with them. But we have to work at trying to get people to work together to actually solve the problems, to address the real problems people face, like the groceries, like the cost of living, like inflation, like immigration, like our foreign policy issues, like the budget issues. Yes, are there some people dead set on doing very dramatic things that we think are bad? Yeah, there are. So we have to try and figure out where we can find people to work. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of time to build trust with people and to build relationships and to actually figure out these complicated issues. Anybody who says, why don't you just, doesn't know what they're talking about. Nothing is simple. Nothing's easy. And instead of solving problems by trying to yell and scream at each other, which will never work, doesn't work in your family, doesn't work in your business, you've got to get people of goodwill to sit down across from each other and say, well, I think this, no, I think that, and you try and work together to find common ground. Okay, I think I've answered that question. Let's try and keep it moving so we can get as many questions as possible. There's 8,000 people on the call.
And again, for folks just joining, if you'd like to ask Congressman Tom Suozzi a question, please press *3. Peter, Tim, Mary, we're going to get to you as quickly as we can, but we've got Maria on the line in Westbury. Good evening, Maria. You're live with Congressman Suozzi.
Hi, good evening, Congressman. I'm a federal employee, a federal worker, and we are extremely concerned because we are afraid they're going to close the service center out in Holtzville, and there will be thousands of people unemployed, which of course will translate into people not being able to meet their bills. So how is Congress helping the federal government employees to stop what the president is doing?
Yeah, what the president's doing, I think, and what DOJ is doing is wrong. And I think a lot of it may be illegal, and that's why the courts have been ruling against it. I mean, there's three powers we have. We can legislate. Not easy for us to win the votes because we're in the minority, but, it's close, so we can try. We've won some things. Second is litigate. A lot of outside groups are litigating and winning. As a matter of fact, we've been winning everything so far in the courts. And third is we can mobilize people. We can get out there in the streets and try and, especially, you mentioned Holtzville. Well, that's not in my district. That's actually in Lolota's district, and he's a Republican. I mean, so we got to try and get the different Republicans as well. We need to get a few of them to help us so that we can get the help to make this change. I was the county executive in Nassau County. We were rated the worst run county in America when I first became county executive, before I became county executive. And we reduced the workforce from 8,500 to 7,000. We didn't lay anybody off. And the last thing you want to do is lay off people who are just brand new employees like they've already done, lay off the probationary employees, because you often hire people to bring them in because you need them. And what you want to do is you want to try and, when people retire who are at high wages, senior employees, or people take these retirement incentives and retire at higher wages, is you don't replace those folks and you use technology and consolidation and better procedures and processes to run things better. But the idea of your whole workforce being terrified is not effective. It doesn't work. It ruins morale, and it's unfair. I had a woman the other day at our town hall meeting who was, I think, probably from the Holtzville office because she's worked for the IRS. She was a college graduate. She was working 7 days a week. She was a waitress. She worked in offices. She finally got a job working for the IRS. She was working on returns from 2022 that were more complicated and they had to get information from the taxpayer back to 2022. So there's a huge backlog. And she got fired. And the problem is she's 7 months pregnant, and now she's going to lose her health insurance. And so, we're trying to help her. And, of course, we'll try and help anybody we can who's in dire straits like that. But I think that the way that they're going about it is wrong, and we got to keep on speaking out about it and keep on bringing attention to it, how unfair it is. I talked about those crazy – I think firing people at the IRS is absurd because all the money you spend to increase the workforce or improve the technology at the IRS results in more revenues coming in, usually from the wealthiest people in the country, to make sure that they're just paying their fair share. Okay, I'm talking too much, so let's go to the next call.
Congressman Suozzi, we've got Kathleen and Jericho on the line next. Good evening, Kathleen. You're live with Congressman Tom Suozzi.
Yes, good evening, Congressman Suozzi. This is Kathy Disler, your Alzheimer's Association ambassador, and I wanted to thank you for all you do and ask you the following question. With all the cuts being made, how do we ensure that medical research dollars continue for diseases like Alzheimer's and other dementias? We are so close to a cure, and it would be a shame to lose its momentum. Is this a cause that the Problem Solvers Caucus can champion?
Well, thank you, Kathleen. I remember meeting you. I think you've come down to Washington before, and I met you in my offices up here on Long Island. And people should know that the Trump administration under Musk and the DOGE committee is talking about cutting dramatically the research at research facilities throughout the country. And on Long Island, in my district specifically, that's the Feinstein Institute at Northwell. That's Cold Spring Harbor Laboratories. Out in Suffolk, it's like Stony Brook University. It's the other universities, CW Post and Hofstra and others that do research. It's crazy. It's one of the things that America is strongest in the world. And I don't know why we would try and handicap ourselves in something we're great at and we're leading the world in, especially when we're competing against places like China and that are trying to beat us. And we have a competitive advantage in the area of research and development and science. And not only that, we got people like the folks that you represent with Alzheimer's that are worried about finding a cure, and they're working on that at places like Feinstein and Cold Spring Harbor Laboratories. They're working on cancer research. They're working on researching other serious debilitating diseases to try and find solutions. So I think it's wrong-headed. We have to just keep on fighting back. And we have to look for Republicans throughout the country that have research institutions in their districts. So we have to bring this to their attention. I'm sure LaLoda is getting a lot of calls about Stony Brook University. So we have to, and the Cleveland Clinic, the Mayo Institute, and other famous places throughout the world where both Democrats and Republicans represent these districts. Federal workers, the previous caller that was talking, Maria, I think it was, there are federal workers in a lot of Republican districts, and people are going to, I think the bloom is going to come off the rose on this DOGE stuff because what they're doing is so callous and irresponsible, and people are going to rise up and go to their representatives, and the members of Congress have to run every 2 years, so they're going to listen to their constituents if they hear them talking about. I saw a guy this morning early morning at Congress today. He represents more Ukrainians than anybody else in the country, and this talk about Trump is threatening to not let people who we invited here for safe haven to stay. He's saying he's going to kick them out. It's like 240,000 people. Well, that's going to kill him, this guy, and it's going to kill other Republicans. So that's how politics works. The people have to rise up and say that they disagree. Okay. Again, you can hit *3 if you want to ask a question. And Courtney, I can't see on my screen how many people are on the call right now. Do you know how many people are on the call?
Almost 8,600. So we're going to get to our next question from our online audience from Rosemary, who passionately disagrees with your vote to censure Congressman Green. Rosemary says he stood up for his constituents and did nothing worse and a lot less than Marjorie Taylor Greene in her MAGA hat and Lauren Boebert screaming at President Biden. We the people need to see and hear our reps fighting for us. Congressman?
Well, listen, I know Al Green. I've traveled with him, and I've worked with him on things related to the flooding in Pakistan. But I think that if a Republican stood up at the center aisle and raised their hand in the air and interrupted the president, a Democratic president, when they were making their speech to Congress, and they were stopped not once, but twice, but 3 times, 4 times. And the speaker kept on saying, you got to stop doing that. You got to stop doing that. And he kept on doing it. He kept on doing it. He kept on doing it. And that's not appropriate. If it was a Republican doing it to a Democrat, I would say that's not appropriate. And I can't be a hypocrite. And the bottom line is what he did was inappropriate. We had agreed as Democrats ahead of time that we were not going to do any crazy displays. And because we wanted the story to be about the president's speech, not about what we did, that we put on a show or something like that. And I think as a result, we made a big strategic mistake. Because instead of talking about how President Trump was lying about Social Security, which he was, when he's talking about the 120-year-old and 150-year-old and 200-year-old, those people are not getting paid money. There's a law passed at least 5 years ago, probably longer, 10 years ago, that said, nobody who's 115 years old can get paid money from the Social Security. And plus, there's all kinds of other checks if somebody's dead to not make sure they're paid. Now, is there some people that get through? Yeah, there's thousands of people that get through, but it's not millions like the president was talking about. It was a complete misrepresentation. We should have been talking about that. We should have been talking about Medicaid. We should have been talking about Ukraine. We should have been talking about the fact that he hasn't done anything to reach across the aisle on immigration, because we're going to need a permanent fix. We only have a halfway fix. So we instead of focusing on the issues, Trump controls the media right now, the media pulpit. He's very good at dominating the media. I'm not saying by doing anything illegal. He's just, uses the bully pulpit. He does a lot of press conferences. He does the crazy things, extreme things, disrupting things, and that's what's covered. So this was our big opportunity to push back and to point out issues that we thought that what he was doing was wrong. And instead of talking about the issues, we're all talking about Al Green standing up in the well and shaking his cane. So I don't think that was a strategically good move, and I'm not going to be a hypocrite. When Joe Wilson years ago stood up and said, "You lie about Obama," he got censured, and that was only saying it one time. Al did it like 4 or 5 times and kept interrupting the whole thing for the president's address. Anyway, okay, let's take the next question.
Thank you, Congressman Suozzi. Peter, Vincent, Joanne, Ryan, we're trying to get to you as quickly as possible. We've got Mary in Plainview on the line right now, Congressman. Mary, you're live with Congressman Suozzi.
I'm just curious about the DOG, the Department of Education cuts. Like, what is it going to do to property taxes as far as school tax is concerned? Is that going to go up because they're so high already? If we lose federal funding.
Yeah, if they cut federal funding and they get rid of the Department of Education, it will absolutely hurt us here on Long Island, and it will cause our property taxes to go up. And so it's a boneheaded move. But some Republicans are standing up already and saying, you can't do that, Mr. President. You would have to do that. You'd have to go through Congress to get that done. I don't think it's going to happen, but we have to keep on fighting it. And, I'm still fighting to get the state and local tax deduction back. I passed it 3 times when I was in Congress before, when the Democrats were in control. Twice for a complete repeal of the cap, one time to raise the cap to $80,000, but we couldn't get it through the Senate. Now some of the Republicans, really because of the pressure we've put on them, are saying that they won't vote for what's called the reconciliation budget unless it includes a fix on the state and local tax deduction cap. So just so everybody knows, SALT, state and local taxes, was the first deduction put in the federal income code. So when they first started collecting income taxes 100 years ago, the governors and the mayors said, we don't want you to do that because we have to collect taxes at the state and local level. We don't want you to collect them at the federal level. They said, nope, don't worry about it. We're going to deduct your state and local taxes from your income so you don't have to pay federal income taxes on the taxes you've already paid. That was in place for 100 years. In 2017, President Trump and the Republicans capped that at $10,000. That was a real crushing blow to the people that I represent on Long Island and Queens, all of New York State, quite frankly, and other Democratic states. And President Trump knew that it would hurt these states. And when he was asked about it, he said, well, they didn't vote for me anyway. So now, because they realize the political pressure that's on them, there are about 5 or 10 Republicans that are saying they will not vote for anything the president wants to do related to the budget unless we get SALT back. That's something that I did with the Democrats, and now they're doing it with the Republicans. So I think we can get SALT back if they pass a budget, but we're worried about the other stuff they're going to do. So we don't want to get rid of the Department of Education. It's a wrong-headed move, and we need to get the state and local tax deduction back. Okay, let's take another question.
All right, well, Congressman Suozzi, we've got 8,800 constituents on, so let's get to our next question. We've got Peter with a DOGE question right now. Good evening, Peter.
Yeah, hi, this is Peter Hackett. Hi, Congressman Suozzi. Thank you for your time today.
Where are you from, Peter?
Can you hear me? I'm from Huntington,
where are you from?
New York.
Okay, good.
I'm from Huntington.
Yeah, it's part of my district, yeah. Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, good. So there's a lot of craziness going on. There's so many things that concern me right now, but one thing that I want to mention that I think doesn't get as much attention as it should is they've cut 130 people from CISA, this Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. And I'm really concerned about national security because this group of people are committed to undermining our electrical grid, all our critical infrastructure, healthcare, manufacturing, technology, and as well as election interference. So you talk about boneheaded moves, being short-sighted. I think this puts us at risk. And I've also heard, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, so I'd like for you to opine on this. I've heard that Russia, that we're not actively monitoring Russia like we did from a cybersecurity perspective, which, if that's true, that's absolutely crazy. So anyway, what is the Problem Solvers Caucus? Can you find common ground with the Problem Solvers Caucus to address that critical issue?
Well, let me first say that I 100% agree with you, and I'm going to get more details on that because, I spoke in the beginning about how they cut the people at the monitoring the nuclear stockpile, and about the people monitoring avian flu, and the people monitoring measles, and they ended up reversing them when we pointed that out, and they tried to bring those people back, even though they had a hard time bringing them back because they had been cut off their federal email system and they didn't know how to contact them. I'm going to get more information on what you just talked about and add that to my talking points, because that is crazy that they've taken people out of doing those important jobs. And it is true that they've stopped affirmatively going after the cyber threats from Russia. And now that's been done before when you're in the middle of a negotiation and things like that. But, like everybody, I think, or not everybody, but certainly I am very concerned that the president, I don't like the way he's doing this with Russia to Ukraine, because, the president came out a week ago, I don't know when it was, I can't even keep track anymore, and said that Zelensky was a dictator. Zelensky is not a dictator. Zelensky was elected by 74% of his people in a free and fair election that was monitored by the Election Commission for Europe that said it was free and fair. Putin is the dictator. And, Trump said something along the lines that Ukraine started it. Ukraine did not start this. Putin started this. Russia started this. And we cannot appease him. I don't know if people know their history well, but that the word appease was used about Neville Chamberlain, who tried to appease Hitler. Oh, we'll just give him this little thing and he'll stop. He didn't stop. He kept on going. And so we cannot appease Putin. We'll be no better than Neville Chamberlain was at the outbreak of World War II. And, Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary that has, anyway, Pete Hegseth said something along the lines, Ukraine is so small, they can't win this war anyway. Well, first of all, it's amazing what they've done up until now with our help, of course. But if we abandon Ukraine, who's our ally, that shares our values, that's a democracy that works together with the West, what will the other countries say, especially the other small countries that border Russia? What will Latvia say, and Lithuania and Estonia? What will Moldova say? Russia's breathing down their neck already. What will Poland say? So it's not just about the dollars and cents and, the big guy's going to win, beat the little guy. We have to stand for our values. And if we don't stand up for Ukraine, we're going to be spending more money later on defending other allies like Poland in the future. So, and other NATO countries. Okay, I'm talking too long. I got to take more questions. Go ahead.
If you'd like to ask,
I'll do more research. I'll do more research on that to add that to my talk points, though. Thank you.
If you'd like to ask Congressman Suozzi a question this evening, just press *3. Again, press *3. John, Anita, Amy, Vincent, Ellen, we're trying to get to you as quickly as we can. But Congressman Suozzi, we've got Kim in Port Washington up next with a question. Good evening, Kim.
Hi, Congressman. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. I'm here with about 50 people from the Port Washington Democratic Club. As you know, we have a large immigrant population here in our area, and immigrants contribute so much to this community. And we live in a place where people really care about our neighbors, and we're worried. So our question is, are there any Republicans in Congress who support comprehensive immigration reform? And is there any hope for securing a path to citizenship for dreamers, people with TPS, and other people in our community?
Thank you. Is this Kim Kaiserman?
Yes, it sure is.
Hello, Kim. How are you? Hello to the Port Washington Democrats. Are the people with you, or they're on the phone?
No, we have about 50 people here watching you in person on Facebook Live.
Hello, everybody. Hello. So, thank you for your question. There are some Republicans that do want to solve the immigration problem, and I've been working on this issue with a guy named Morgan Luttrell from Texas for the past year. That was before I was back on the Problem Solvers Caucus, and we're developing a three-part solution. One, to secure the border, similar to the Senate bipartisan bill that was proposed last year by Lankford and Murphy in the Senate that Trump sabotaged. Two is to fix the broken asylum system. We in the 1980s, when we first started the law in 1980, the asylum system, we loved asylum in America. Somebody would defect from Russia, the Soviet Union. We'd say, "Oh, great, asylum, we get you asylum. That's wonderful. We're winning, they're losing." Now the asylum system is being completely misused because the cartels and the organized criminals and the coyotes are making billions of dollars by charging people $10,000, someone told me $21,000 the other day, per person to bring them to the southern border and to help them answer the questions so they can pass the test, the first step, the credible fear standard it's called, to come into the country. 85% of those people are ultimately denied, but it takes 6 to 8 years to adjudicate the cases. So the system's completely overwhelmed and broken and not working. But the third piece is to give a path for dreamers, for what are called TPS recipients, people that we invited to America after an earthquake or a hurricane or a civil war or gangs. We said, come to America, it's safe. Like I was just talking about Ukraine before. And people who've been here for like 10, 20 years should be given a path to legalization so they could stay here. Same thing with farm workers. The whole economy is going to be destroyed if we try to deport the farm workers, because at least half the farm workers in America are undocumented, and there's healthcare workers, and there's people that from Afghanistan, and there's been a lot of bipartisan work on each of these issues over the years, but we've never been able to get it over the finish line because the politics always got in the way. So I've been working on building this coalition of Democrats and Republicans, and now I got more people involved because I've got a working group in the Problem Solvers Caucus. It's being headed up by a good friend of mine, Jimmy Panetta, and a Republican named Juan Ciscomani, to try and take the stuff that I've been working on and put it into legislation, even though we have legislation, but we're going to ask them to tweak it. And I've been meeting with a lot of different people, including people that you would never think we could get a deal with. And the bottom line is the Republicans are going to try and go my way or the highway for as long as possible. And they're going to try and just do border security. But the point's going to come when they need the Democrats' help. And it may come sooner than we think. I was hoping it would come with what's called the continuing resolution on March 14th, but they think that they can get the votes from all their members of the House. But then there's other things that will be coming up with not reconciliation is unlikely Democrats would vote for it, but there'll be the debt ceiling they'll need us, and they'll need us because they're going to need more money for Homeland Security because they're trying to do all this stuff with these plane rides and things. Well, we're not going to give our votes when they need our votes unless they give us a deal on immigration to finally solve this problem after 30 years. To, yes, secure the border, but also fix the broken asylum system. But most important from my perspective is how to legalize dreamers, TPS recipients, farm workers, healthcare aides, and people that are essential. And I've been building a coalition of outside groups of business, badges, and the Bible. Businesses that know our economy will be wrecked. We see prices going up already because of these tariffs that I think don't make sense, because you shouldn't do tariff sweeping across all product lines. It should be targeted for things that make sense strategically, like chips or electronics or robotics or certain research things, instead of being broad-based. And the prices are going up. If we try to deport all these people, the prices are going to go up even more, because if we don't have these folks working here, our economy is going to crash. So nobody's going to do it because they're just being nice. You've got to do it as part of the negotiations, that when the Republicans need something from the Democrats, we have to extract this from them. And there are a lot of people that want to do this, but they need to have this. They need to have the White House and their leadership to not threaten to ruin their lives if they help. So we're working on it. It's very complicated. It hasn't happened for 30 years, but I think we can get it done.
Well, Congressman, we've got almost 9,000 constituents on the line, so let's get to our next question right now from John in East Meadow. Good evening, John.
Good evening, Congressman. How are you this evening? 2 points. One, I was always taught in school that we have three forms of checks and balances in this country. But it seems that no matter what Trump does and the courts rule against him, he just ignores them. So he's like a semi-dictator and nobody stands up to him. And I don't hear much from the Democratic Party. It's like they're weak, they're minded, and whatever. And regarding Ukraine, Trump was very rude to Zelensky. The country was invaded, but yet nobody's speaking up for him. That's my comment. I have many more, but it'll go on for hours.
All right, John. Well, thanks. I think that you're expressing what a lot of people are feeling, okay? I can't tell you how many times I've heard from people, even friends of mine, you're not doing enough. The Democrats are not doing enough. You got to fight back more. You got to do more. This is going on every single day. I got to encourage people, please look at my social media page. Sign up for my newsletter. We are doing stuff every single day. I have stuff that I've been going out on regarding Ukraine and Doge and other things that have been getting some of the most active things in the country that people have been following. But not everybody follows it because the media is so fractured. There's no one place to get your news anymore. You know, there's the old school traditional media. So many less people read the paper anymore. They don't read Newsday. They don't read the New York Times or the Post. Less people read the paper than ever before. Then there's, the local TV channels and cable news. It's less and less people are following that. You have to look at social media. You have to look at your local papers. You have to look at the podcasts are so popular now. You have to look at ethnic media. You have to look at the national. It's really hard, but I can promise you that people are fighting back every day. But they're doing it on things. We can't fight back on every single thing because there's just too many things going on, and not everything is DEFCON 1. But as far as the executive orders and Trump just, most of what he's done, withholding funding from USAID contractors was struck down by a federal judge. And the Supreme Court supported that ruling as recently as, I think, Wednesday. And the ending, he wants to end birthright citizenship. That was struck down by 4 federal judges. And, the refugee admission program was struck down. And there are over 100 lawsuits going on right now. And right now it's working. And people are getting more and more attention to what's going on. But there's no magic bullet. And we have to remember that the Democrats, the president has the bully pulpit. He's one person. He's controlling the media by, he's dominating the meeting, I should say, because he's doing press conferences every day. And he's got a plan that they've devised where they call it muzzle velocity. They're going to flood the zone. They want to do not one thing or 2 things or 3 things a day. They want to do 10 things or 20 things a day because they believe that the media and the public can't focus on more than 1 thing a day or 2 things a day. So as a result, they are. It's very hard to keep track of all this shit. So we have to keep on pushing back regularly. If you sign up for my newsletter, if you look at my social media page, I'm doing stuff every single day. So people are handing me notes while I'm talking right now, so I'm getting distracted. I apologize. Okay, let's take the next one.
All right. Right now, we've got Anita in Long Island on the line. Good evening, Anita.
Good evening, Congressman. I just wanted to say how concerned I am that there is, and I know that you just got done expressing all of that frustration, but it just seems very obvious to me, and I'm only 40 years old, that my entire life there's been a concerted effort by the Republican Party, and their stated goal is to hollow out government agencies so that they can make them look weak, as Grover Norquist once said, small enough to drown in the bathtub. They purposely make things immovable and broken so they can point to them and say, that's broken. We ought to just privatize that and give it to my buddies. Well, the whole system is built on that. They are not good faith actors. And I apologize to have to say this after you're being so frustrated, but every time you work with them, to me, all that says is that you have a very naive look at what they're actually about, and that these are not good faith actors. And just because you golf with them doesn't make them good for the American people. And I'm just going to say that you've fallen prey to the paradox of tolerance many, many times. We are tolerant, and we tolerate their intolerance over and over again until we just cede more ground. And then here we are. Here we are with basically.
Now, is it Anita? Is your name
assets.
Anita?
Yeah,
is your name
yeah,
Anita?
it's
Anita. Okay. Yeah, well, thanks. You make some good points, Anita. I don't golf with my Republican colleagues or my Democratic colleagues. I don't have time to golf. So that's the misnomer on your part. But I am trying to work with people whenever I can. And I stand up every single day. So, again, please look at my newsletter. Please look at my social media feeds. You look at all the different stuff that I'm pushing back on a regular basis. But we have to, the bottom line is we're not going to be able to stop what's going on unless we win elections. We have to win. We could pull our hair out, and we can interrupt the speech and wave our fist and do protests. But if we don't win, we don't get stuff done. So we're not going to stop what's being proposed unless we win. Now, as far as the general public goes, I think that the general public is coming around, that they don't like the callousness of what's being done by DOGE right now. They don't like the callousness of what's happening with Ukraine. They don't like a lot of the cuts that are being proposed for Medicaid and for SNAP. They don't like that the president who campaigned on the price of eggs and groceries is not really doing anything about the price of eggs and groceries. They don't like the fact that there's no bipartisan effort to try and address immigration. So but at the same time, people are frustrated with government. They don't like the status quo either. They think it's too big. They think when they call up a government agency, they got to wait too long on the phone. They think it's not operating as well. So if we can't just say no, 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 we have to talk about how we believe that we can cut out waste, fraud, and abuse in a more responsible way. Like I talked earlier, it's not about laying off people and ruining their lives and taking away their health insurance. It's about attrition, where people normally retire, or you give retirement incentives. The high-wage people leave, and then you don't replace those positions, and instead you use technology and consolidation and better procedures and processes to run it better. But if we just say no, 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 and everything's wrong and everything, people are going to tune us out. So this is not easy. I wish it was easy. I wish you could just say, they all stink and they're screwing us, and let's go beat those. It doesn't work that way. We lost the race. Trump won my district by 20,000 votes, 5.5 points. Biden had won by 11 points. There was a 16.5-point swing in my district alone, and that happened all over the country. So we have to recognize that something's not right, but we have to do it in a way that we are persuasive to the people, that we are representing their interests. I think we have to rebuild the middle class in America. The minimum wage is $7.25 an hour in 20 states in our country. Yet the Republicans don't want to increase the minimum wage. The Democrats do want to increase the minimum wage. The Democrats believe in unions. The Republicans don't believe in unions. There's a thing called the PRO Act. They won't support it. The Democrats will. We have to point out the ideas we have. I have a bill that I'm going to be proposing called the SHARE Act. I'll give you a corporate discount. I'll give your corporation a discount if you give 5% of your stock to your employees, your lowest 80% of your employees, so that they can join the middle class and be stockholders of your company. Because right now the stock in our country is controlled by a very small percentage of the people, and most people don't have any stock. We need to rebuild the middle class. We have to give an alternative. Everybody knows what Trump stands for. He wants to make America great again. And he wants to do it through these things that we're seeing every day. So what do the Democrats stand for? Well, I think we have to start talking about, we stand for rebuilding the middle class in our country, so that everybody in our country who works hard makes enough money so they can have a decent life. Everybody, whether you're a progressive or a conservative in America, should believe that if you're willing to work hard, in return for working hard, you make enough money so you can buy a house, you can educate your kids, you can pay for health insurance, and you can retire one day without being scared. We have to start promoting that idea to people. and saying what we stand for, and not just, these guys are awful, they stink, let's beat them. And we do want to beat them. I do want to beat them. I mean, that's people know I'm a Democrat and I want to beat the Republicans, okay? But in the meanwhile, I also want to work together to get things done. I'm cleaning up pollution in my district because I worked with Peter King when he was in office. I have money coming into my district for water wells and for sewage treatment plants because I worked with Republicans to do the Infrastructure Act. We have to get stuff done. And I know the natural inclination is like, we're going to just attack and they're going to attack us. But we have to listen to what the people are saying. Okay, let's take the next question.
Ellen Daniel, we're going to get to you momentarily, but we've got Amy in Plainview on the line right now, Congressman Suozzi. Amy, you're live with the Congressman.
Hi, Congressman. You actually answered a little bit of my question, but it's fine. You speak a lot about bipartisanship and the need to work across the aisle, but what have you accomplished working with Republicans to actually help your constituents on issues that we care about, such as the economy, cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, jobs lost because of DOGE, etc.?
Well, as far as those things you just mentioned about Medicare and Medicaid and those type of cuts, we've managed throughout history to stop that from happening. Now it's under bigger threat than ever before, and we have to win the argument. We have to persuade our Republican colleagues, but more importantly, we have to persuade the voting public to speak to the Republicans as to that if they support those type of cuts, they're out. That's how it works. We have to persuade them that if they support the idea of cutting Medicaid, Social Security, or Medicare, they're going to get voted out. And I've accomplished a lot of things in the past working with other people, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, and I'm going to keep on doing that type of stuff. I'm not new to this whole thing. I recognize that there's bad guys out there. We have to beat the bad guys, and we have to fight back for the people that we represent. And I will always do that. That's why I have the record that I have, that I've been supported by the different groups over the years and have the good ratings on all the things that people are rated on based upon their performance. And that's why I was able to win this election. Even though Trump won it by 20,000 votes, I won it by 11,000 votes. So, I'm going to keep on fighting. But I'm also going to try and find those Republicans and Democrats that want to work together to actually get stuff done. And we can't just fall prey. It's not easy. I understand. A lot of people are frustrated. And I'm sure there's people on this call that are Democrats. I'm sure there's independents, and I'm sure there's Republicans on this call. And I'm sure that there are people that, are, like I said in the beginning of the call, some people are freaking out. And it's like, this is scary, what Musk is doing, what Trump is doing, what the Republicans are doing, and we're worried about the impact this is going to have and the future of our country and the system that we have and the checks and balances that we have, and they're concerned about the cost of living and people's jobs and the callous way people are being treated. And other people are happy. Other people on this call are saying, hey, I want things to be shaken up. I do think there's too many. I want to see all this dramatic stuff happening. I don't like a lot of the stuff that's happening, but I recognize that people don't want the status quo. And Trump managed to sell himself as the agent of change, as well as the Republican Party. That's why they won. They're the agents of change. Now, I don't think as time goes on, they're either not going to change things, or the changes they're going to make are things that people don't like. And that's when the rubber hits the road. And that's when people have to hold them accountable. So that's what I'm working on constantly, is trying to educate people in as rational a way as possible as to what's really happening and what we need to do to move forward. And I wish it was simple and straightforward, but it's not.
Well, let's get to our next
Courtney.
question. We've got Ellen on the line right now with a veterans question. Good evening, Ellen. You're live with Congressman Tom Suozzi.
Ellen? I don't think she's there.
Sorry about that.
Ellen, are you there?
No, I'm here.
Hi, Ellen.
So I've heard you speak, and I've been following you on your social media all the time. And what I'm concerned about is that you do not push back. or at least we don't see you pushing back.
Then you're not watching my social media then, Ellen. Ellen, you're not watching my social media.
And I watched you on CNN. I watched you on CNN with, I believe it was Fitzpatrick. I watched the whole thing.
That was last night.
I read your social media. Yes. So I do watch. And
so do me a favor, Ellen. Ellen, do me a favor. Give your email in the chat, and I'm going to send you stuff directly and show you the hearings in Washington, D.C., where I push back on the DOJ Commission, where I push back on what the president did with Ukraine. Go ahead. The problem is, go ahead. Let Ellen go ahead, please.
You literally do not push back. We are your constituents, and I have been writing, I have been calling. And it's interesting that you say things that, like, you push back on us, but you don't hear us pushing back on you. We are not happy with what you are doing. And
give me an example of something you think I'm not pushing back on. Give me an example of something you think I'm not pushing back on.
You censured a Democrat. You could have had a conversation with Al Green on the side and said, dude, this is not what we're here for. I personally thought it was disrespectful.
Okay, but that's not. Give me an example of something you think I'm not pushing back on.
I'm telling you, listen to what I'm saying.
Tell me one issue that you want me to push back on that you don't think I'm pushing back on. Tell me the issue.
One issue? Support
an issue that you want me to push back on that I'm not pushing it.
Okay, you've been speaking a lot about what you've done for Ukraine. I've listened to you, what you've done. You know, you're complaining about, you're on the same page as all the other Democrats and saying that we don't support Ukraine enough. Okay, I'll give you that. You're absolutely right. You're on the ball.
No, tell me an issue that I'm not pushing back on, that you want me to push back on, that I'm not pushing back on.
What did you do? This is what I'm asking. What is your deliverable? What have you done?
Ellen,
Ellen,
you've got to tell me, what is the issue you want me to push back on that you don't think I'm pushing back on? Please.
Pushing back hard enough on DOJ. I don't think you're pushing back enough on Ukraine.
Okay, so DOJ, I'm on the Ways and Means Committee, and on DOJ, I specifically was the person that pointed out that Elon Musk and his young guys that he has working for him, his gamers, have access to all this personal information. And I led a letter from a bunch of Democrats about the Social Security Committee, and I'm on the Oversight Committee of Social Security in the Ways and Means Committee. And I wrote letters to the Inspector General, or the Acting Inspector General, of the Social Security Department to get access and a report as to what's done. And I pointed out what Jason Smith, who's the Republican chairman, said just a year ago on the exact same issue, and I used his exact same language. And I got the Ways and Means Committee to do a press conference to all work together to point out what they were doing. So I'm not sure what the thing is that you're looking for me to push back on. I'm doing this stuff every single day, pushing back on the issues that people care about and that I care about. And to say I'm not pushing back is just not realistic. Okay, let's take the next question.
All right, we've got Miriam in Plainview on the line right now. Good evening, Miriam. You're live with Congressman Suozzi.
Thank you, Mr. Suozzi. Thank you. I'm calling upon you and Congress to tear down and rebuild American education. The system has become totally un-American, and I know whereof I speak. I'm a Barnard grad, class of 1972, a refugee and daughter of Holocaust survivors, the first of my family to go to high school, let alone college. I was a teacher of 3 generations of American students, Cuban refugees, suburban children, and I have always taught them critical thinking, open-mindedness, tolerance. I am the grandmother of a high school senior who, when she visited my alma mater and tiptoed her way through the Columbia encampment where masked terrorists reign supreme, and where her orientation guide was wearing a keffiyeh. My granddaughter did not apply to Barnard College, and I am happy and I am heartbroken. So I would like to know what Congress can do to protect the physical safety and the civil rights of Jewish students and all students on campus, and what they can do about a curriculum that has become indoctrination. And I don't mean nice letters that are of the ilk of President Rosenberry of Barnard. I mean concrete actions. What can you people do for us, please?
Thank you, Miriam. And I can hear the passion in your voice, and I completely understand it. And anti-Semitism is very, very real, and it's getting worse. And I want you to know that I'm one of the strongest Democrats in the country to stand up against anti-Semitism and to stand up for Israel as well. And I've been supported by all the outside groups because of the work that I've done. And I think that Congress has to seriously consider adopting standards where the federal money will not be distributed to colleges that tolerate that type of anti-Semitic behavior. And it's not an easy thing to do, but I agree with you that it's gone way too far. Because, people have used the idea that this is free speech. This is not free speech. These are outside. As a matter of fact, I met with someone in my office the other day that's been researching where Qatar, the country Qatar, and other countries aligned with Iran are actually sending money to these campuses. And a lot of the people that were protesting up at Columbia last year were not students, but were outside actors. And again, there are so many forces that are trying to divide us, and they're trying to divide us from within. They're trying to get us to all hate each other. And, what's happening is that, Democrats are often pandering to the left and Republicans are pandering to the right. And social media is promoting disinformation, or people are using social media, I should say, to promote disinformation and saying extreme things. And cable news is, just trying to get us all whipped up so they'll sell advertising. And Russia and China and Iran and North Korea are, infiltrating our country through social media and elsewhere with disinformation and trying to get us just all to hate each other and be mad at each other. And again, there's money being spent. And the stuff that's happening at the national level in our country right now is fostering that type of division. I mean, what happened in the chamber the other night when the president gave a speech? Not only I was angry at the president, he said a lot of stuff that was just completely untrue, and I was angry at a lot of my colleagues at the way they behaved as well. And this anger of just one side attacked the other side, and people want us to divide us. Our outside adversaries want to divide us because that's how they think they can beat us, is by us dividing from within. And they're fostering this type of division. I'm a human being too. I get pissed off when I see stuff that I think is unfair or wrong. But I have to also figure out how to be effective and get things done to actually solve problems. So I'm actually getting this group to give me more research about the money that's being sent into our college campuses and other not-for-profits in our country to try and get us more divided and to try and fight back against it. I don't know that the idea is to completely tear down the entire education system the way you said, but we have to try and root out a cancer that's been growing. And we have to have the guts to stand up and say that we see it when we see it. I think much too often politicians are afraid to do things because they're afraid of what the reaction is going to be. I mean, this whole vote of the censure, okay, that I voted to censure the guy for disrupting the president's speech this week. And, not just once, but like 5 times, even though he was called to not do it. I think that, I'm getting all kinds of calls from outside groups that are saying, call you, and most of the people that are calling me are not even from my district. But I'm not going to stop doing what I think is right. What I think is right is fighting for the people that I represent. to try and get things done and solve problems. And the problems we face right now are many and varied. And the biggest one is to push back against the things that I think are extreme, that is coming from the administration, but also continuing to work on trying to find a solution for immigration, and also trying to bring money back to the district, and also trying to address the cost of living that people face. So I wish it was easy. I wish it was straightforward. I wish there was one speech that could be made, or one protest that could be made, or one thing that you could tweet that would solve the problem. It doesn't work that way. You've got to just keep on being relentless and keep on going and keep on moving forward. Okay, let's take another question.
Well, Congressman Suozzi, we've got Daniel in Farmingdale on the line. Good evening, Daniel. You're live with Congressman Tom Suozzi.
Hi, Congressman Suozzi. Thank you so much for your time. I am a disabled person in your district, and although I work as hard as I can, to the extent that I can, I'm on Medicaid and Social Security, and what can I do as a citizen to help keep these things alive so that I can afford to keep living here?
Well, Daniel, I want you to know that that's your case is the type of case we got to be talking about every day. And unfortunately, we get in these distractions and these fights about how to protest and things. We don't hear cases like yours where you're a disabled person. You said, and you're relying on Medicaid, and it's like essential for your life. And you can't. This is not just a political matter for you. This is your life. That if Medicaid is cut, it will hurt you personally. And I'm going to fight like hell to protect you. And the millions of people like you that require this assistance from Medicaid. And I think we just have to keep on. We have to, instead of getting caught up in the protest and the sign holding and the interrupting the president's speech, we have to talk about the importance of Medicaid and how important it is in your life. And what you say, what can you do? You got to keep on telling your story as much as possible. As a matter of fact, if you could contact my office, I think you could. There's a way for you to do it online right now if you want to. Or how do you do that, Courtney? How does he leave a message for us to get more information?
Let me go ahead to give out our district office phone numbers. So our Glen Cove district office number is 516-861-1070. Again, our Glen Cove district office phone is 516-861-1070. Our Douglaston phone. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Daniel, I want to try and get your personal story, because the more personal stories I can tell of people, the more effective I can be. And I want to try and promote the different stories that people, how they're affected by this, because the personal stories are what was what affects people the most. When we did our budget hearing, and I talked about the woman who was laid off by Doge at the IRS, and she's 7 months pregnant, and now she's going to lose her health insurance. I mean, that's how you communicate to people in real life what these cuts are going to do. So we need to take personal stories like that and use them, so I can use them in my remarks and explain why Medicaid is so important. As I said earlier, millions of people are on Medicaid. Hundreds of thousands of people right here on Long Island that get their insurance through Medicaid because either they're low income or they're disabled or they're getting help through the Affordable Care Act. There are 2/3 of the people that are on Medicaid. Medicaid pays for 2/3 of the people in nursing homes, and it goes on with the things that are affected in real life, that people are affected by the cuts to these programs that are being proposed. So I think we can. I know it's 8:30 already, but let's take another question.
Well, Daniel, please stay on the line, and after the call, you have the opportunity to leave a voicemail and continue your story and make sure that we've got all your correct contact info. Again, please, Daniel, stay on the line, and you can leave a voicemail
Let me say one other thing. Let me say one other thing. 58,000 people on Long Island are in the Affordable Care Act that comes through Medicaid. 305,000 people on Long Island are low-income individuals on Medicaid. And 133,000 people are disabled on Medicaid on Long Island. 133,000 people that are in Daniel's situation. Like I said, 62% of the people in my district in nursing homes are covered by Medicaid. And you should have heard the stories that were being told by Mike Dowling about the effect this would have on hospitals, and how every budget is about people. There's a person behind every story, and you have to do things to try and make things more efficient and more effective. But you have to be human about it, and people will understand if you do it in a humane way and you do it in a thoughtful way, but not these careless bull in a china shop type cuts that they've been doing. If you want to see somebody's values, look at their budget. Okay, let's go to the next question.
So, Congressman Suozzi, we've got Randy in Mineola on the phone next, who's an independent voter with a question for you. Good evening, Randy. You're live with Congressman Tom Suozzi.
Evening. Thank you, Congressman Suozzi. I want to thank you for what you're doing and doing the Teddy Roosevelt walk softly but carry a big stick approach that I agree with. And my question is the following. I'm a retired teacher and department chair, and one of the things that I had to do in my job was do something called an annual performance review of each employee. As I understand it, that's done in government. How do we get George Trump Congress to slow down their cuts and do them more methodically on a more merit-based and performance review-based basis?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Randy. That's the way it should be done. The way that they're doing it now is completely inhuman, I think, and ineffective. They're going to end up with more lawsuits from people because they're violating civil service laws, they're violating union contracts, and as a result, they're going to end up paying more in damages than they think that they're saving by doing these cuts. And it should be done on a much more thoughtful way. The president should have a 4-year plan for his 4 years of his administration as to how he's going to make government more. They say they want to balance the budget. Okay, they're full of it. They want to do $4.5 trillion in tax cuts for some of the wealthiest people in the country, but they're going to only cut $1.5 trillion. So that's a $3 trillion deficit added right there. And plus the $1.5 trillion in cuts that they want to do are awful and will never happen because they're so bad that it's all being made up right now, because there's no way that even the Republicans will support an $880 billion cut to Medicaid. It's never going to happen, especially if people keep on pushing back. So we've got to use our energy as effectively as possible to educate people about these cuts that are being proposed, and to try and not spend our time just attacking each other or just protesting. We need to educate people about what's going on with these budgets. I did this budget briefing this past weekend. Like I said, there was like 500 people in person, a couple hundred people online. It was incredibly good because we educated people about what's happening with these different cuts. I think I'm going to do more things like that because I think that's the best way, is to we have to actually show people how these cuts are affecting people's real lives. Okay, thanks so much.
Well, Congressman, before I turn it back over to you for some closing remarks, like I said to Daniel, if folks who we weren't able to get to this evening, please remain on the line, and you can leave a voicemail with your questions, comments. Please give us your most recent contact info, spell out your email address for us, and make sure to repeat your phone number. But again, please leave your info for us, and you can leave a voicemail, and that way we will get back to you as soon as we possibly can. And Congressman Suozzi, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, thank you, Cardi, and thank you, everybody, for being on the call tonight. And I really appreciate everybody for taking the time to be on here. There were over 9,000 people on this call tonight, and there's still 8,927 people on the call. And I want to thank everybody for their time. And listen, I love our country, and I believe in our country. And I've devoted a large part of my life to public service. 8 years as mayor, 8 years as county executive, 7 some odd years now as a member of Congress. And this is tough stuff. It's not easy. And this is one of the most dramatic times I've ever been in public life. And like I said, there's some people that this is like the end of the world. They see the end of the world is coming, and there's other people who are like, yeah, let's keep going. I want to see this stuff happen. And I've got to try and get things done. That's my goal. I want to get things done. I want to win the argument. I want to try and make things happen that make people's lives better. And I'm doing it the best way that I see fit, that I can actually accomplish things. So, and I've accomplished a lot of things over the years where I've brought, tens of millions of dollars back to our district, more than that even. And I've changed policy, and I've helped people in their individual cases that were happening. And I'm building relationships with people on both sides of the aisle so that we can get things done. And that's what it's going to take. So I'm asking for people to just keep on staying active, keep on reaching out. Please sign up for my emails or for my newsletter. Please sign up follow me on social media. The one question tonight that really, I'm concerned about, and I can't remember what her name was, I apologize, but she was saying, you're not pushing back enough. And I said, what am I not pushing back on? And I asked it like 5 times. Tell me what I'm not pushing back on. And then she said I wasn't pushing back enough on Doge, which is just not accurate. I mean, I've brought it up in committee hearings and signed on the legislation and made speeches about it and doing everything in my power. I wish there was something more that I could do, but we only have 3 tools at our disposal: legislation, litigation, and mobilization. That's what we have available to us. Legislation, litigation, mobilization. So I'll keep on trying to do my best in each of those areas to try and keep pushing forward and to try and find common ground with the other side, with the people that are reasonable in the Republican Party, of which there are many, and not as many as I would like, but there are enough that I think we can get stuff done if we keep on pushing to try and find common ground. And it can't be that every single thing that's happening, no, that's not going to work. We got to pick and choose the fights. I think the budget that they're proposing doesn't make sense. I think what Doge is doing doesn't make sense. I don't like the fact that they won't work with us to try and get an immigration deal done. I just think that we have to just keep on pushing and keep on fighting. So thanks very much, everybody. I appreciate your time, and thanks for staying on the call for as long as you have, and wishing you all the best. Thanks. Bye.